Mortal Shell is an upcoming Souls-like action RPG, which hooked my attention with really beautiful trailers. But does it have what it takes to expand the genre, become something more than yet another Dark Souls clone? Being genuinely curious, I laid my hands on closed beta access of the game, and here are my impressions about it. Welcome peeps, I'm Scimitar and this is a step-by-step early game review of a Mortal Shell. Design, graphics and visual aesthetics. The game aims on Dark Souls design heavily and openly. It is dark, unfriendly world. A hopeless swamps with traps and poison, labyrinths of creeps underground with bleak lighting and a gloom design. Through the first level I met like 5 different enemy types. Some with distinct visual appearance, some with surprises after being killed. Skinny vagabonds in rags, oversized brutes with huge halberds, flesh-hungering ghouls, some kind of abominations with arms replaced by blades, a muscular, walking, exploding flashbacks, somewhat resembling a pyramid head, just well, without pyramid. Both level and character design is not keeping you bored. Locations are detailed and ambient, and enemy models are looking familiar yet authentic. Directly comparing the variation of enemies to Dark Souls, taking the same amount of time played, this variation is actually same or just a bit bigger than in Dark Souls. At the same time, the world of Mortal Shell feels smaller than in Souls games. Even the dirty, vision-obscured location in Dark Souls always felt spacious, volumetric, due to bigger overall scope of visible space and bigger amount of details. Yet, developers mentioned that they intentionally limited the total space available in locations for exploring in beta to focus players on the combat, so judging from this, locations should be bigger at the release. And well, I guess probably comparing the scope of world building to a game made by a company with almost limitless resources is more like a nitpicking, so here is just as such allowed. The graphics quality itself is nothing to complain about. Vice versa, in many aspects, Mortal Shell looks better than Dark Souls 3 for example. Higher poly models, less cases of terrain with shiny shaders for no reason, the character sculpting is looking badass yet anatomically realistic. Unreal Engine 4 is used wisely here, the models, textures, lighting, everything is looking up to date and fresh. Performance was okay to me as well. On RTX 2080 I never dropped below constant 60 FPS on 4K resolution, at least in first 2 locations available in current version of the game, of course on ultra settings. The visual look of the game is probably what Mortal Shell takes from Souls series the most, from basics of level and enemies design up to interface and consumables animations. It is meant to resemble Souls series. Is it actually good or bad? That's for you to decide. As for myself, I see no issue if game inherits visual style, as long as gameplay is encouraging and game itself has own spirit, something distinct. Is that so? The combat. Basics of combat and overall fighting pace is once again inherited from Souls series closely. The Death and Reborn system, unpaused menus, regular and heavy attacks, dodge, parry, riposte, stamina use for attacks and dodging, etc. But here is where Mortal Shell starts to bring own stuff, which is actually exciting and makes game feeling distinct. Like for example, there are 2 dodge types, short step dodge and the roll dodge, which you can perform depending on what you need. Gain the shortest time span to counterattack or make like more safe bet and distance yourself from the enemy. While not all skills were available in current version of the game, it is clearly seen that Mortal Shell deeply encourages combat mastery. The basic difference with Souls series here is that you're building yourself not through the attribute bonuses, yet through the class skills. More about classes after that. Some of which are passive, but most are directly improving effectiveness of your combat moves. Means you're gaining more damage not through flat strength bonus, but for example through Poisonous Cloud, released after successful riposte. Not more flat health bonus, but the chance to damage your stamina instead of health when getting hit. Basic stats differ from class to class, but are all static. Besides health and stamina, the local Magicka is called Resolve, which is used to perform special attacks. And once again, combat engaging even here, as the Resolve bar fills up when you land successful hits on enemies and parry their attacks, and at least part of these attacks can be performed only at certain conditions, for example after parrying. The most prominent unique mechanic of Mortal Shell is Harden. Visually it looks like your character's skin turns into stone, which freezes your movement until you release it or take damage, which is being ignored, but Harden instantly fades off, of course. The quirky detail behind Harden is that it preserves your momentum. This opens new tactical vision in combat, when you, for example, rush straight into your enemy, damage him, yet avoid getting hit in return, if timing is picked wise. This actually allows you more freedom with dodge only, as you can activate it even in the middle of attack. The class skills and abilities can improve its functionality further. After first few usages of it, it looked like really overpowered to me, like, come on, insta invincibility without even an animation frame. But in practice it's not quite so. Yes, when timed properly, it can save your skin from absolutely any attack, including bosses. But at the same time, the more fancy move you'll try to perform, the more risky it will be, as it freezes only yourself, not the time around you, and jumping into like 3 enemies and freezing yourself will most likely end badly, which can happen pretty often by the way, if you will be not peeking around the corners. The combat difficulty itself is increasing gradually, not exponentially, but enemies always have something to surprise you with. They greatly differ in speed, range, power and own unique special attacks. Animation system is a separate mention here. Most of them are done really professionally, with high count of iterations, and thanks to this combat feels really fluid. Probably only nitpicking here is the dodge roll animation. While from the description it should be roll after short dodge, animation transitions feels a bit twitchy. This can be improved I think, as well as couple of other weapon special animations, like healing riposte, which if looking closely could have used a couple more animation iterations. Interactivity needs full game release to be judged fully. At the one hand, there are clearly interesting elements like traps and hazardous surroundings in locations, or icicles falling down from the roof of cavern when boss shatters it, etc. But at the same time, it could use some improvements as well. For example, for you to be capable on climbing on the small rocks, or enemies design better correlating with their behavior. Here is an example. This enemy, you can see it's like riddled with some sort of steel rods or blades sticking out just from his body. He has 2 combat patterns. Ranged, when he pulls out one of the blades just from the wound and throws it, and the melee pattern. Logically, an attentive player realized that if being kept on distance, this dude should eventually run out of blades to throw, but this simply doesn't happen. They keep appearing again and again magically, so he can shoot endlessly. This can be a totally unimportant moment for some players, but for those who like to observe the enemies and learn their weak parts from that, this can be immersion breaking. The class system. Game introduces an actual class system which makes it look more classic RPG-ish. There are 4 classes, each prioritizing dedicated playstyle with respective skills, which you can unlock using the local currency similar to Souls called Tar. But aside from it, there is also more rare currency named Glimpse. You can pick the class by possessing a dead body, learning its memories and skills. Harros is looking like a great choice for beginners. Additional health restoration depending on conditions, faster harden cooldown, while Teal, the local rogue, has more fragile health bar yet much higher stamina, and his abilities are more risky and offensive. Increased damage at low stamina, poisonous cloud after riposte, chance to drain stamina instead of health on taking damage, etc. The other 2 classes are not available at the moment, but most likely will represent sort of berserker and a mage. One more dynamic detail is that you can switch between all classes even in the middle of a combat using special consumables. Details. The lore part behind the game is unclear yet, but there are pieces of backstories behind each class and each skill of it, where narration is being told seemingly by the memories of the body itself, when you're possessing a new shell, a class, or learning a new skill. Once again, as per developers, lore mostly was hidden from the plain sight before the full release. Amount of consumables is vast: currency, healing, buffs, teleportation, and so on. And even in terms of consumables, the game once again encourages mastering the combat and keeps sticking to classic hard difficulty of the game in everything. As for example, many of their effects are being activated only after a certain combat condition is met. You was damaged, you have parried, and so on. And for most of consumables, you need to consume them several times before learning their effect fully. And sometimes this leads to you being poisoned or other attribute damaged, but it only makes game more fun, keeping the element of surprise. The world itself is feeling alive and dangerous. You can step into a hidden trap, fall down from the cliff, or simply catch a toxin from a poisonous frog jumping around. Oh, you can also play on on a lute. It is spiritual and also has own gameplay effect. An intermediate verdict: Mortal Shell is, at least, incredibly promising. It visually delivers classic Dark Souls aesthetics with a great graphical quality and familiar combat system, while at the same time expanding this combat into a new direction, bringing actually new mechanics and simple yet interesting class system more than good for an action RPG. It clearly stands out between many other Souls-like games and builds own immersion with combination of new gameplay mechanics, narration, world design and soundtrack. There are few scenes here and there that can be improved, but most of questions and final verdict depends on the game release. How much detailed and distinct the world will be together with enemy diversity, how deep character builds will be with all skills available, how challenging the bosses will be and how unique combat design they will possess. Will it have actual game universe lore besides the character narrations and some other moments? But if all the planks will be not only keep at the level of the preview, but increase it alongside the walkthrough, Mortal Shell has all chances to emerge as a real Dark Souls successor, opening a new niche in the genre. Yet will it be so or no, that we'll know only a few months later, and I of course will not miss making a full review after release. That's it for now folks, hope you have enjoyed and share your own thoughts about the game in comments. Make sure to enable channel notifications and join our Discord to always stay in touch. Stay tuned, stay healthy and see you in the next video. Scimitar Gaming here, signing out.